Like many other veterans, I faced a unique problem the first time I left the military. I served the US Army in three parts. First, as an enlisted soldier, second, as an activated reserve soldier, and third, as an active duty officer. When I first left the military, I was feeling good and confident and strong. It was 2007 and I was ready to take on the world. I took a little time off, but when I tried to enter the workforce, it didn't want me. I had worked as an intelligence analyst, acquired some college credits, and held a top secret security clearance. I thought that was enough. When I finally found a job, it was cutting fabric at a craft store. An article covered by the New York Times this year further discussed this issue as systematic among veterans. Veterans are working, but not in jobs that match their advanced training. And the veterans without college degrees are pushed into low job skill positions. With all our experience, we still need college education to obtain the proper licensures and certifications. So how do we get there and where do we start? The process of getting to school faces its own challenges, but there are many programs, such as our program, Veterans Upward Bound, as well as VA incentives like the GI Bill and Voc Rehab that help vets get into school. The greater challenge is keeping veterans engaged in school. In 2015, 38% of veterans enrolled in community colleges and 23% of veterans enrolled in private for-profit institutions. In 2016, the majority of student veterans were between the ages of 24 and 40. Student veterans were less likely than non-student to invest time outside of the classroom on activities non-essential to the completion of their course, often as a result of parenting responsibilities or work. Student veterans have a history of difficulties transitioning from a military style of technical learning and hierarchical organizational structure to a university learning environment. It seems vets don't want to be part of the university. However, according to Student Veterans of America, student veterans have a 72% success rate for earning post-secondary degrees and have a higher GPA of 3.35 compared to traditional students, 2.94. So what does this mean for the university? It means the university is competing with community colleges and for-profit universities. It also means that there are opportunities to engage and include student veterans to bring those expert experiences into the classroom. Veterans' experiences often involve and reveal creative leadership skills. Those experiences promote innovation, which now more than ever is a skill which should be shared with the masses. Good afternoon, and welcome to our discussion on the Veterans Minority Perspective. With us today are Jeremy Bailey and Amanda Depew, two military veterans who will share their insights and experiences as current and former students at SIUE. Jeremy?
Hi, how you doing? I'm Jeremy Bailey. Graduated from SIUE with my bachelor's in 2006 and have gone in and out of grad school ever since. Had quite a few different experiences at that time. Before that, I spent about 5 years in the Navy. Had a fun time. That was back, I joined in 1998, went through all the 9/11 stuff, and then eventually got out in 2003. Became a student directly after. That was my whole motivation when I transitioned out of the military, was to go to school, finish what I had started before the military, and that's what I did.
Amanda?
So I'm Amanda Depew. I just completed my bachelor's in social work from SIUE over the summer, and now I am a grueling grad student in the social work program at SIUE. I'm also the Banff grad assistant for the Veterans Upward Bound program at SIUE. We're located on the East St. Louis campus you should come by and see us. And I have an Air Force veteran, 4 years in, with some experience with things that go boom. And I did a little bit of time in the sandbox known as Bagram, Afghanistan. Also, one of the creators of the Women Veterans of the St. Louis area, and also one of the co-creators of another program on campus geared specifically for veterans, which we will talk about later in this program.
Great. I ask that everyone please leave their microphones muted during this discussion, and we will leave room at the end of the discussion for any feedback, comments, questions, or shared experiences. So Jeremy, let's start with you. So you're a father and a recent grandfather.
True.
Tell us a little bit about some of the first challenges you faced as an SIUE student.
Well, so we're going back a little ways. We're going back to 2006 is when I graduated. So actually, when I became a student again at SIUE, it was 2003. There was only at that time, I was only introduced to one person that would be able to help me with any of the veteran benefits when it came to getting enrolled and everything. It was basically a simple form. The person I worked with was very nice, and I didn't get a lot of information other than, you know, hey, you filled out the form correctly. I didn't really know where to go and what to do, so I just kind of went with the whatever I could figure out along the way. For whatever that was worth. So my first day, after a nice lengthy period of being enrolled, I was driving my truck, and I was what is that, 162, I think, right there, or whatever the road is, the one coming up onto campus, and I got pulled over. Come to find out, my tags were out. This is my first day of school. I'm very excited. You know, I got my brand new JanSport backpack and everything, and so I get pulled over and I find out my truck was suspended, and it was, I'm thinking, okay, this is just how my college career is going to go. You know, this is day one. But it ended up being actually wonderful, little experience. The police officer, even though he wouldn't let me drive my truck after finding out I was suspended, gave me a ride right up to class and kept me from being late. Went in and ended up, you know, just like anything else in life, I figured out how to get the truck going again, how to get home and all that stuff. But the most important thing to me at that moment was making sure I was in my butt in my seat when I had my very first class of college, which was one of the primary motivators of joining the military in the first place, was to ensure that I'd be able to finish up my academic goals. Right. So that's where I was. I had a weird start, and I pretty much had to figure out everything for myself, which I was totally okay with. But I'm looking between then and now, and there has been a lot of changes in support for veterans on various campuses throughout the United States.
So let's back up for a second. So when you got pulled over, was it just you?
Yeah, at that time, that was just me. Now, there were several times, though. Well, at that time, I had kids at a very young age. So I guess I'm 26 at this time, somewhere around that area. And I had a 4-year-old son, 5 at the time. And I would have to take him to class with me. Luckily, like, he was a good kid, so I didn't get a lot of grief.
So you had your son with you on that day?
On that day, I didn't have my son with me. No, it was a couple other times that I did have to bring my son with me. But on the very first day, no, I didn't have to bring my son with me, even though it was a complicated, weird day. That original, like, challenging day kind of just set it up that I'm just going to have to figure out how to work with it. And that's one of the other challenges I had along the way, was being a young father and having a wife that was working, me working part-time, and trying to go to school full-time, and just trying to figure it all out. I didn't know what to do, so I just did it, whatever I knew how to do. So he's my son. He's well-minded. I'm going to bring him with me and cross my fingers that the professor allows it. I got lucky enough that the professors did allow it. I don't know if there was any formal or informal policy against it at the time, but they allowed me to do it. And in fact, it was kind of cool because he ended up, my son, you know, not to go on too far sidetrack, he he ended up taking, it was a social persuasion class we were in, and he ended up scoring a B out of a test that we all took. Granted, it was multiple choice, but it kind of goes to show that even today, he's pretty socially persuasive. So maybe he was ahead of his time. So yeah, it was a different environment for me. I had my children with me. I was at a different age. I had different levels of responsibility across the board. I had a hard time relating to a lot of the daytime students. Actually, the nighttime students tended to have a little bit more adult atmospheres. So I felt like I blended in a little bit more in those atmospheres. But overall, it was just it didn't feel like an environment that was set up
Yeah.
for me to succeed.
So you didn't feel like there was a lot of guidance as a student veteran as far as
No.
what to do with your child and those accommodations?
There was, at that time for me, there was nothing more than help filling out a form.
Okay. All right, so let's move on a little bit. So studies in recent years say that veterans don't have extra time for activities. So unless these activities are extremely meaningful, veterans will not participate. They have other responsibilities, and in their opinion, veterans sacrifice for the opportunity to attend school, and they will not risk that opportunity. Amanda, why, in your experience, are veterans deterred from participating? Is it simply that they do not want to, or is there something else holding them back?
So in my experience, when I started at SIUE, it was 37. So being 37 and doing activities with 20-year-old, 22-year-olds, 24-year-olds is not necessarily my thing. Like that would be me like hanging out with my kids, which isn't a bad thing either, but these are not my kids. And so that makes things, like you said, it needs to be a meaningful activity. For the younger vets, they do those things, right? They'll do the, we've got the e-games now and stuff like that. So the younger vets, they'll get engaged in things like that. The older vets, we have family obligations outside of school, work obligations outside of school. So just trying to find that extra time to do any extracurricular is a little difficult to do. I think when we manage to make the activities more family focused, more family oriented, I think we see a bigger turnout. Last year, the SVA did the Trooper Hopkins fundraiser out at the American Legion in Edwardsville. And not only because the cause was so great that we had a great turnout, but because we also went the extra mile to make sure we made it very family friendly and made sure that the kids wanted to come out and play and also be engaged. So, you know, we raised a lot of money for a needy cause. And I think that was probably one of our more highly attended events.
What were some of those activities that were available for the whole family?
So we had like Arch, Life Flight. They brought in their chopper. I guess maybe the SWAT team, but I feel like I shouldn't call them the SWAT team because I don't know for sure. But those guys brought out their big vehicle, and the kids. There were tons of kids climbing in there. Lots of food. It's a big area for kids to run and play. They did so many other things, but the student vets were out there flipping burgers, you know, serving plates, those kinds of things, directing traffic and whatnot.
So you think it's a little bit of a misnomer that veterans don't want to be included in university activities?
Oh yeah, I would absolutely say that. It's not that we don't want to be included. It's that we want to be included, but in a way in which it doesn't take us from our family. Because we're gone enough and we've been gone long enough that, you know, they've now earned also our time. And so to do one more thing outside of the home without your kids, your husband, your wife, it's bothersome. And so you're going to do what you can to stay and spend that time with your family. But if I can take them out with me and do this and engage, well, then that's great. And then
Yeah.
it shows my kids, you know, this is what volunteering is about. And then this is also still what being this family is about.
Yeah, and see, that's a really important point to make, because the military has been steadily moving towards incorporating the family more into the service members' lifestyle. So this is not just an issue that's important for veterans, but also service members. Those RTC cadets who are just beginning their military experience. They need to know that the FRG program, for instance, is no longer the FRG program, is no longer the family readiness group. It's the soldier and family readiness groups. So that means it doesn't matter if you're not married. Anyone you consider a family is part of that, and that support needs to start. So for the cadets, that support starts at the universities. As veterans, that support needs to continue through the universities. And I think what we're kind of bringing up that point is that those traditions continue in the veteran's life. And it's so important to us that if the university can't understand that these issues are vital to our everyday lifestyle, then that is the only point in which they would lose us. Other than that, we are here, and we're proven to be long-term and strong university participants. So let's dive a little bit deeper. Veterans continue to face the unique challenge of transferring the military experience, and I know this is opening up a can of worms right here. So the veterans continue to face a unique challenge of transferring the military experience into college credits. It's difficult for veterans facing 3, 5, 10, even 20 years of service for skills and experience, which isn't always accepted in the universities. There's the joint service transcripts, and those are undervalued when it comes to transferring those credits, even though jobs like today, like PAs or physician assistants and cybersecurity positions, were started by the military. So in your opinion, Jeremy, Amanda, what are your thoughts on the value of the transfer of these credits into the universities? Should something be done on a mass scale? Should it continue to be left up to the universities? What are your thoughts?
I'll jump in, unless you were going to.
Nope, have it.
So just on a very simple level, like for those that maybe don't understand what we're talking about. So as of the last time I checked, I believe going to boot camp, and anybody that's ever served basic training in boot camp is, about 3 months. It's all day, every day and night. You're under guidance, and that is equated to taking an elective gym class that lasts 1 semester. And requires that you maybe go and attend some type of Nautilus training for 1 hour a week. And somehow that's equivalent to the boot camp experience. And that I do believe the same exact thing is done across the board. I was an instructor in the Navy, and I put in countless hours into both training as well as learning from trainers in order to get the certifications that I got. And they were all but meaningless when I got out. I was an IT instructor in the Navy, and I ended up having to take a basic computing class that I guess I could have clept out, right? However, I was teaching IT, and I had to take a basic computing course. I had plenty of network experience. I had a lot of admin work done. I had a lot of schooling done, and none of it really mattered on one level, because it wasn't a direct transfer. On an entirely other level, it didn't matter, right? So when I had actually joined the military, I had my associates. So when I come back from the military, I end up having all of my electives out of the way. And what that did was eliminate every possible credit that I could have pulled from the military, because the only way you can really apply them for the most part is through an elective. I'm sure there's exceptions to that in circumstances, but I think that's a safe general rule. There's no real true appreciation for the actual gathering of knowledge that every veteran gets through their service. I personally, and I'm just going out on a limb here, I can't hold anybody accountable for this. What's the right word? It's not equality, but equanimity, right? That's made it this way. I think service is undervalued. As much as I appreciate sentiment towards veterans, that there is a general thank you for your service mindset throughout the country. That's wonderful. I never want that to go away. However, there's a mistake in thinking that 4 years of service is 4 years of going camping. Right. It's not that. We're in classes constantly, including in boot camp. Everybody thinks of boot camp that we're just running around all day. They forget that there's also 4 hours of instruction minimum in every day. Plus you actually go to a schoolhouse. Plus there's all kinds of other stuff that you have to get signed off on.
Right.
So I think there's a huge disconnect on what a military experience is altogether. And in that we're not giving proper credit to those that have actually done a lot of work that they're not getting credit for.
So with that being said, do you believe there should be a standardized method for all the universities and college to accept the joint services transcript credits, which are usually higher rated than what the university actually is accept them as, or should it remain up to the individual universities?
It would be a start, right? But I don't think that I'm not sure the problem can be solved on the university's end. I think it may be more on the military's end, on being able to justify in writing why they think maybe a 4-year enlistment should be the equivalent of a bachelor's degree.
Yeah. And Amanda, do you agree with that? Go on.
No, I'm kind of just neutral on it. If we're talking about the joint service portion of it.
And what about specialized MOSs or military occupational specialties for those that don't know?
So that's one that gets me because I'm not sure how you would translate. I was a munitions specialist in the Air Force, and I told you at the beginning of this that I'm now a social worker. So I'm not even really sure how you can do that. So that's where I kind of get.
So what about for those veterans who want to continue working in that area of expertise?
If that's the case, I would say that, there should be at least some forethought into that exception.
And should that be written into university policies or national policies? Or neither?
I don't think national, I have to kind of back up off of.
Okay, well, we would definitely be looking for your feedback at the end of this discussion. What do you think about that topic? Should the joint service transcripts be more highly valued as veterans' college credits or not, and why? So we'll return to that at the end of this discussion. So what we're really talking about here is changing the veteran narrative within the universities. That's the overarching point of this discussion, because as we've just already discussed, just up to this point, there are some things about veterans that are true, some positive, some challenges, but we want to get the truth out there, and we want to be included equally as a part of the university. So another part of being included in the university activities is that these things trickle into the workplace. So acceptance of what veterans have to offer the university, and therefore what veterans can bring to the workplace, is what we want to become systemic, a positive system and ripple effect. So have you, Jeremy, you graduated from SIU
Mhm.
a couple of years ago.
That's
Have
right.
you seen a change in how you're accepted into the workplace with your degree? Has that changed your overall experience in a positive or negative way? And how?
Uh, the degree at a very minimum opened up a lot of different opportunities, right? Um, there's so many things that in order for you to just sit at the table to eat, that you have to be able to say you have this thing, regardless. We have it. It's hard to talk about it too much without going on a rant.
Well, let's hear the short version of the rant.
All right. Well,
I think the audience will tell us if you go too long.
okay. So, all right. When I was going to school, we didn't really have any veteran environments that I really recalled, and I didn't really look for them as much, but I also didn't see any like symbols like that there was anything there anyway. So there was no guidepost whatsoever. I guess that's a way to say it. And I'm absolutely sure that's true in a bunch of different like myriads of lifestyles. But particularly with veterans, it's been a long time since I initially went to school. So I initially went to school back in 98, and that was actually at Flow Valley, right? I was the newspaper editor at the time, or newspaper like manager. Before that, I was a high school dropout, really hated high school, and found my true like passion for education once I got to college. My boss he was a paraplegic, and he really was the one that inspired me to end up pulling the trigger on joining the military. He was an Air Force journalist, and I had a real big passion for journalism, and I still do, to this day. But when I came back, the Master Chief, on my way out, everybody that's been in the service, and you get out, when they do the talk, the retention talk, there's always at least one person along that line that's not selling you nothing. And mine was a Master Chief. Okay. And he told me, when you go home, at this age, the things that are going to happen to you are going to be different. Like when you go back to school, you're going to be at a different spot in your life than everybody else, than all your peers. Yeah. Your grandparents and your parents are starting to get at the age where they're going to get sicklier and so on and so forth. So all these challenges that I don't think were necessarily unique to veterans, but I think are definitely highly saturated in the veteran community, that maybe only a narrow scope of the rest of the population experiences. There's tons of adults that are still going back to school, chasing further degrees and whatnot. But they generally aren't starting back from square one as a freshman.
And that's a really good point to make, because when the university accommodates the veterans, they're not just accommodating the veteran, they're also accommodating a whole new class of students, and that's an older generation. And that's something that's been steadily increasing over the last 2 decades. So I believe, I agree, that benefits the university, because that they're not just hitting this small group of veterans, but they're also servicing their older students. So that was a very important point to make. I'd like to move forward a little bit so that we leave a little bit of time at the end for others to join in this discussion. So I was thinking about how the veterans, as they come in and they are onboarded, they're often set up with counselors. And one of the challenges is for the counselors, I know, is that if the veterans do not self-identify, they don't even know they're veterans
Mhm.
to give them this information. So Amanda, I think that counselors should have training to better understand the veterans language, but what about the application and onboarding process should be done? And is there an avenue that the university can use to engage veterans?
So just between you and I, so that I'm clear, counselor, by counselor, you mean advisor? Or,
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. We'll
Gotcha.
clarify that,
Okay.
that
All right.
the academic advisor.
Because I could have went. Okay.
Yes.
So starting with the academic advising, I think it's important that yes, the student be identified as a veteran if that's the case. That way the advisor can first and foremost get a copy of that DD 214 if it hasn't already been done at Veteran Services, so that they can find out what credits they may already have through that DD 214. I wasn't
What if
asked
they
about
don't
my-
know what a DD 214
Right,
is?
and that's the thing is my advisor, and I'm not trying to, drive a bus over anybody, but he did know for whatever reason that I wasn't there, that I'm a veteran, and was gonna have me take a health course, $1,000, when I've been walking around with my DD 214 in my pocket every day for the last
Yeah.
3 years.
And I noticed the bracelet on your arm. Why don't you tell the audience, for those that don't know, show them.
So my
what
bracelet,
this is.
it says 22 a day, which is the estimated number initially of how many veterans a day die by suicide. They've recalculated how they want to calculate that stat, report it. So you'll see the number being 16, 17. It doesn't matter. That's still a very high number.
So who usually wears these bracelets?
Veterans or
Yeah.
someone who's been affected by someone in their life that's military service and has chosen to go that way.
Right.
I don't, I don't hide it. Anyone out there that knows me, I don't hide it.
Yeah.
I'm proud of my service. And so anyway, my advisor didn't ask me about that. It was, either do the class, pay the $1,000, or I could do the SAS sessions. But again, just like trying to be more active with other events, I don't necessarily have time to do, an hour, even if it is once a month, from 5 to 6 or whatever for a SAS session. So that was out of the question.
And I think that's an important point to make, because when we pose the question, what about if the veteran does not self-identify? How do we help them? How do we give them this information? That's why I pointed out the bracelet, this very special type of bracelet here.
The tattoo.
Yeah, well, even the tattoo. Listen, veterans always can identify other veterans. There are certain things that we do, mannerisms, and other things that we vibe off of each other.
I would say, just because you said that it's probably even more important, based on that, if not that alone, many other things, that person be a veteran in that role.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. That is a good suggestion. But when in doubt, I think that kind of leads to, Amanda, you started a green zone training. If they can identify some of the things that are common to military service members, your ROTC cadets, and your veterans, that is a way of identifying that when we don't identify ourselves.
Absolutely.
So Amanda, can you tell us a little bit about green zone training?
Yeah, absolutely. And one more thing though on the advisors, just quickly. If the advisors will just ask their students if they're new, if they have military service or not, that would then help identify, and we don't have to track it, I would like to, but that way the veteran will at least know, or the advisor will at least know that they should have the ability to get at least this credit or that credit. But so now on the green zone training, so green zone training is piggybacked off of Safe Zone. If you're familiar with Safe Zone training, it's LGBTQ ally training. So basically, Green Zone is student veteran ally training. And so it's geared towards our faculty and our staff to help them work with our community, our group a little better. So our training goes through the branches of the service, kind of like what each one does, and we kind of break it down by demographics and things like that. So you can also kind of get an idea of the subgroups within our population. There's, sub minorities within our own population of veterans. So there's women veterans. We have, our LGBTQ veterans, veterans with mental health issues, those kinds of things. And so we kind of break those things down to help the staff and faculty, one, identify us, and then two, when they do identify these things about us, how do they deal with it? And then if you see someone, one of us struggling or something like that, we want to give you the tools to do a warm handoff, not just write the information on a sticky and give it to them and hope they get there. We're looking for that warm handoff. So I'm struggling, I need some help, but I don't know where to go. I need you to walk me to Access and, hand deliver me to Dominic or to Michelle or, to Jim or whoever in there. Or if I need to go to the peace office because I've suffered MST throughout my service, that's military sexual trauma. Take me to the peace office so I can talk to Sam, and Sam can give me those resources to help me with that.
Okay, so the Green Zone training is going to inform the faculty and staff on what all these programs are, what the veterans' language is, and really also give them the contact information for all of these services. So not only can they understand the language, but they can identify us even when we don't identify ourselves and speak to us.
And when the cool thing, you guys, faculty, staff, when you go through our training, you also get an identifying cool sticker to put in your door or wherever, so that a student veteran, when they walk by, they see that identifying sticker. They know that your area, you are a safe person, a safe environment, and that they can stick their head in there and, whisper their little issues, and you can go from there.
Yeah. And so how is this relevant to our RTC cadets?
So it would be the same way. They would be able to identify a faculty or staff member on campus that can help them with those issues.
So the Green Zone training would be all inclusive.
It's all inclusive.
So for veterans as well as there's cadets in training and everyone.
Yep, we go through all of it. Guard Reserve, so that faculty understand that there's actual legalities that have to be followed when it comes to our Guard and Reserve folks being activated and deployed, or activated and whatever. So we go through all of that.
And I like that point that you made about being activated and deployed, because when we say deployed, we all know what that means, but that doesn't mean that a civilian understands what being deployed means. I think we've all been deployed on this panel, and when you're out there, you don't have access to the internet, and if you do, maybe you're just a lucky pogue like I was in the Intel shop. I know a couple people understand what I'm talking about.
It's gotten way better since our time.
Yeah. But so these are different challenges, and if something goes down and you need to move, especially if you're in a forward position, you may not be able to get in a paper on time, but you don't necessarily want to leave school. So how do you convey what the conditions are to your faculty in a way in which they understand that you're not trying to get over the system, you're trying to comply as much as you possibly can, but also achieve your goals. So we did talk a little bit on the side about the Veteran Service Syllabus Statement, and I know this is yet another project that you have brought to the university and are trying to implement. Can you tell us what the Veteran Services Syllabus Statement is and what it's for?
So basically, it's one more thing that we're asking faculty to add to their 20-page syllabus at the beginning of each semester. Kind of right along the lines of the same as you do for plagiarism and other services on campus, especially access services. So basically it would be a statement similar to that in regards to, you know, if you're a veteran, there are resources available to you, and then namely the new vet center that's going to be opening up on campus next month. So I feel like somebody somewhere has an actual statement. I don't have that statement. We were working on it. That's why I don't have it. Someone has it, but we are hoping to get an official syllabus statement that, you know, can be added to the syllabus.
So that is something that's in the works behind the scenes.
Yep.
that is going to be implemented at SIUE specifically.
Yes, it's my understanding.
Mhm.
The work
And-
is being done. Yes.
Yes. And do you have any other talks with any other universities to spread that beyond the university?
So it's not a new idea. It's not ours. I like to Google a lot of things, and there's so many things you can find on Google. And so the syllabus statement was one of those things. And then I talked to Kevin Walton about it. And he kind of had a similar idea. And also he is very interested in doing like a refresher course for credit for new veteran students on campus. So, but that's not mine, so I can't talk on that right now, but
Okay.
yes.
All right, that's good. So that's 2 ways to include veterans in the university. A third way, for those veterans that do self-identify, is our group, which is Veterans Upward Bound, and including Veterans Upward Bound into the university's activities. We're here, we're ready to be incorporated in any way possible. And Jeremy, could you tell them a few minutes of, you know, a little bit more about what we do for those veterans?
Yeah. So in general, right? So we work with all era of veterans. So whether it's the few remaining World War II veterans or the most recent separated veteran that got out yesterday. And we'll work with them. Even some of the older veterans haven't got their GED. So we can actually work with them educationally at the level where they're still working towards their GED and beyond. Our goal is to help veterans achieve a post-secondary education. And it's really more important that it's a good program for them that suits them. We're not a recruiting station for SIUE. That doesn't mean our veterans don't go to SIUE. By natural course, many of them will and do. However, we work with all the area colleges. So we work on both sides of the river, Missouri and Illinois. We work out of St. Charles, St. Louis County, St. Louis City, as well as on the Illinois side, we are in Columbia, St. Clair, and Monroe. Sorry about that. I was reading. I'm a horrible multitasker, so forgive me about that. We have a lot of benefits go wasted into university level things that we can actually provide for free for the veterans, which is essentially all of the refresher courses. We also help with other things such as basic computing. We also work with foreign languages. I don't know which one we don't have, but we have all the major ones right now. I'm sure there's some obscure language we don't have, but we have, I think, all of them. And we also have a couple of really awesome people that work in our office with all of our clients, Amanda being one of them, and Taji, who's not here today, but she is the other one. And they are wonderful people. They help them, especially with the initial part of the admissions process where it gets a little bit confusing. Should I fill out a FAFSA form? What major is good for me? Maybe what benefits should I be looking at trying to use, or maybe they start from scratch. I'll be honest with you, there's even a couple that need just a little bit of extra push.
Yes, so I'm gonna jump in for a second here, and that was a very important point to make, because we are also here not just for the veterans, but also for the staff and faculty. If you have questions about what the veteran should do, you don't need to scratch your head trying to figure it out. We're here as an extension of the Veteran Service Office, and we may not be physically in the main office, but we're travel. We go wherever we need to go. We'll go to that veteran's home if we need to, or that service member's home if we need to. So
And we do.
So you can feel free to use us as a resource as well. If you don't know and you don't have the opportunity to research with your workload, that's what we are here for. We're here for the veteran, the service member, and the staff. So I would like to leave a little bit of time for others to jump in on the discussion. And as one question I want to pose out there is for the veterans, the students, the faculty, and staff. What issues and possible solutions do you envision for SIUE student veterans? Have you connected with veterans at the university? And if so, do you think their influences have impacted the university, and how so? So let's start there. Would anybody like to comment? Look, you can put a message in the chat if you'd like to comment. And our producer, Michael Jackson's off to the side. He's looking at the chat for us.
Wonderful producer.
Yes.
Comment. Hi.
Good hair too.
The chat's in the bottom right corner.
Everyone should have the ability to unmute themselves also
Yeah.
if you want to speak up.
So we
instead of
can't
chatting.
see audio. So if you're chiming in, either turn your video on or put a message in the chat. Here we go, right there.
Hi.
Well, we can't hear you yet. Unmute on the bottom left, Michael. There we go.
Can you hear me?
Click on the name.
Is the volume up?
Okay. All right, go ahead and speak. We should.
Shit.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Hold on, one moment.
we can hear you.
You can hear me?
All can hear. I'm not sure if they can hear us.
All right. Unmute. X to unmute. All right, can you go ahead and speak, Tabitha?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
We still can't hear you.
I'm able to hear Tabitha. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, Tabitha, I can hear you.
We still can't hear you. Can you go ahead and put your questions in the chat?
Yeah, I can put them in the chat.
Are you able to hear anybody else?
I can hear Tabitha.
The chat's right here.
So I was just wondering if we could utilize these new services at the dental school in Alton, because I'm also a student vet and there is nothing over here.
Okay.
Sissa. Firstly, thank you for your service and your sacrifice. My uncle was in the Air Force for 15 years as an arms trainer, and I relate to a lot of what was discussed on importance of time with family. Secondly, at other universities, there's a program that actually describes exactly what was mentioned about transferring military and life experience into college credits. Program participants write an extensive paper submitted to professors for approval for up to 30 upper level credits 1 year of college. Do you believe this type of program should be available at all universities and have a higher credit cap? And this is a question by Joseph Orr. Thank you so much for that.
That's a great,
Yeah.
that's a great question. I kind of in my head as you were reading that, Mike, I was like, I'm feeling a little ripped off. Because like,
I can't not
could
support
write with the
anything
best
that
of-
makes an increase.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything
Yeah.
that raises the profile of what the veteran has done, I have to support.
And so first, I want to say thank you for your comments. We really appreciate that. And having that family support is so important to veterans and service members. So thank you for that. The second thing I want to say is I absolutely support them accepting more credits because we are coming out of the military, even with just a few years, having so much experience that it does put us more on an expert level, but without those credentials being accepted, we are left to start from the beginning. I know I came out of the military with 28 college credits and used about 6 towards my college degree. So I was starting from scratch, even when I did go to school. Yeah, anything that promotes that, I absolutely agree with.
All right, the next question is from Tabitha Hansen. Her question is, can we try and utilize these new services at the dental school? As a student vet, I haven't actually talked to anyone at SIUE, but apparently there is only one person that our school communicated with on campus.
Mhm. Yes, the answer is yes. So we do have the Veteran Service Office, but unfortunately, there's only so many people per student. Our offices are also there for you. We are SIUE employees, and it doesn't matter what school you go to, you can contact us. So yes, if you're in the dental program and you want some more assistance, guidance, even counseling, we do all of that. So you can contact Veterans Upward Bound at SIUE.
And can you talk really quickly about where your location is so staff and interested veterans can find you?
Yes, so if you want to come to our office, that is located at the East St. Louis campus at the Higher Education Center. However, you do not need to travel to that office in order to see us. Just give us a call and we will come to you. We are also connected with the ROTC, the Army ROTC offices, and we're already working out a plan so that we can be there several times a week so that you can walk into our part-time offices on the main campus. Any other questions? Okay, so let's go backwards a little bit to that question. Again, I want to know, I want to hear from those, especially the faculty and the veteran students. If you're out there, I want to know, have you connected with any veterans? And even if you haven't, I want to know, do you think there's a reason why? Is it just that the opportunity never presented itself? Is it something that you want to happen? And do you have any ideas on how to bridge that gap? Yes, and go ahead and put the comments in the chat so that we can keep the talk going along and we don't have to worry about technical issues, don't have to slow us down. Ooh, so,
Okay.
Can I ask you a question real quick? Just both of you?
yeah, quick question.
It's my favorite question, and it always tells a lot about. Anyway, for you going to school, both of you, what was, as a veteran, your biggest challenge?
Oh, my biggest challenge was moving. I went to school, I was doing college while deployed, while in military training, and as an officer, the training never stopped. So sorry, ROTC cadets, it's just the beginning. All right, so when I finished my MBA, it took me 4 years to finish a 1.5 year program because I was going to officer candidate school, and then I was going to Bullock, which is the basic leaders officer course, and then I was going to the technical escort course, which is a emergency response type of training, and that was just over the course of 2.5 years of nonstop training. So the biggest challenge wasn't school itself, it was balancing that time out.
For me, my biggest challenge with school was going and staying. Then once I made it to the big dance, right, the university here, I was like, man, there's too much money going into this, so I got to stick it out. I did, but the biggest challenge for me was just being in a new environment, being in a new big environment, and trying to blossom, right? Like just become who I was once before. So that was my biggest challenge. And so now here we are 4 years later, and we're growing a lot of our veteran services. So I'm happy with that.
That's great. Let's go back to these questions. Michael, could you read those for us?
Yes. Bim Bim asks, one of the frustrations that I have experienced in dealing with the university as far as employment is applying for a job only to have them tell me that I am not qualified for the position that I have over 15 plus years of experience in and have been trained in and performed the posted job at a much higher level than the position I'm applying for, only to be told that I don't qualify for the position.
Yes. Yes. So I'm glad, so glad that somebody brought that up, because that actually feeds into my own personal story. As I got out of the military the first time with so much experience and credentials, I thought that that would be enough, and it really wasn't. And I didn't realize that my degree was only part of the problem. The larger part of the problem was how I presented that information on a resume. And this is a common problem with veterans, that we don't tend to sell ourselves. We underrate ourselves on our resumes. That's the first thing. And the other thing is we do not translate the military jargon into something that civilians actually understand. Many years later, about 16 years later from that time, I understand these things. And that's something that I actually help veterans with. I help them out with at VUB, and we also provide referral services for those that need help with their resume. So the problem isn't so much that your background, the problem is really how you present that information to employers. And then and organizations like ours can absolutely help you with that, and we do provide those services.
Next question from Corbin Jones. Corbin says, as a veteran, SIUE student, and a small business owner, I would love to see the Small Business Success Center and the Vet Center work together and help our veteran students toward their entrepreneurial goals. Thanks, and I appreciate everyone's services to the school and our country. So what can you say about that collaboration between the Small Business Success Center and the Veterans Center?
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in on that. As a business background, I absolutely love that idea, because many veterans come out, like I said, they're coming out with these leadership skills, and a lot of them have that entrepreneurial spirit just naturally. So giving them, connecting those opportunities for them is really advantageous to their career. Jeremy, I know you have a little bit of some thoughts about this as an entrepreneur yourself.
Yeah, there are actually quite a few programs out there that do help veterans with small businesses. There's a couple local ones. I talked to a guy, well, it's been a couple years now, and COVID has changed quite a few things. So keep that in mind. That was working strictly with veterans on a food delivery type of program similar to Uber. So there are definitely programs locally, nationally for that. But I would really love to see a real intentional effort to really carve out a part of the university that really works to educate veterans on how to take advantage of all these potential benefits that they get as being a veteran. I mean, they had the Patriot Express loan for a long time, and I only knew a handful of veterans that ever heard of it. So to have just the education side, where you don't have to necessarily commit and quit a job and join this program to do this thing, that you can get in and talk to the experts and see what you're really going to do before you risk it all.
Because there are grants available to veterans with disabilities, as well as a level of access that is given to veterans and veterans with disabilities out there that help them build their businesses.
And women veterans.
And yes, and women veterans as well. So it's important to connect to create those connections that will help them beyond the university. So yeah, I absolutely support that grouping. So we've got, we're down to our last minute here. Are there any final questions? If so, put them in the chat real quick. We'll read them aloud and we'll get them addressed. Oh, we got one last one. Okay, our final one. Michael, could you read that for us?
Okay, my experience getting credit is they don't translate to the right credits. I only awarded for general studies. Says that they could be, there's some things that could be done to help every university easily, or at least they could audit the class and take the midterm or final.
Yes, so that is a huge subject, but you're absolutely right. We agree. It's something that needs to be worked on.
Though the universities across the nation do put a lot of effort into this,
Yeah.
I just think it needs to be more personal.
Yeah, I think the way forward is that it's going to be more focused on military specialties. So in certain fields, especially in the medical fields and the IT fields. But in the meantime, in the short term, there's not that much that we can do about it, but make sure that you are actually getting your transcripts. Just to wrap this all up, I wanted to thank everyone for joining us today. Thank you, Jeremy and Amanda, for your insight. I really appreciate everyone's time. This is just the beginning. Veterans are part of the university. We are a minority group. We bring many things to the university, and we hope that the university comes together and continues to include us in the conversation. Thank you, and y'all have a good day.